Wolf. All right. Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to the C Show. My name is Chris. I'm here with Wolf today, and I understand you are a romance author, correct?
Yes, that is correct, sir.
So, what exactly is a romance author? I mean, what does that entail?
I mean, in essence, it's writing love stories. One way or another, you're writing a love story between a man and a woman, a man and a man, or a woman and a man, or whatever it may be, really. All in all, it's just love and, passion, lure,
Are there different
emotion.
types of, I guess, genres of, or because I heard that like Hemingway was wrote love stories, but is there different versions, or I guess what I'm trying to ask?
I mean, There's young adult romance, there's new adult romance, there's fictional romance, there's fantasy romance, erotic romance. You get the
So
gist.
okay, so fantasy romance. What exactly would that be?
Fantasy romance is kind of like the novels you read, Harry Potter and the lot. Those are fantasy novels,
Okay,
but you
all
add a
right.
twist of, romance into it. Like, fuck, let's say there's a good character, sexy, kind of beastly male character that every woman loves. That sexy, big, tall guy, abs, looks like a villain. Everyone loves him. Falls in love with the pure woman or pure innocent girl, yada yada. Those are usually your romance novels in fantasy. Pure princess falls in love with some badass villain guy.
Okay.
That's it.
Said you said erotica. Does that have more sex involved in it, erotica, or is it more of a sexual type book? I guess I'm asking.
Well, I would say erotica is a middle ground. You can have sex in every scene if you want, or in every chapter rather. Or you can have this sort of intimacy where you're with your partner and the gentle caresses on your touch, on your skin, or a kiss, or those small intimate moments of humanity where you just feel each other there, physically, emotionally.
Be like
That
the
can
Bridges
also
of
entail
Madison
in
County.
Hmm?
So it would be like a based on like a movie like the Bridges of Madison County.
Sort of, yeah.
Yeah. I've not watched too many romance movies in my life, but I've watched a few. I did. I remember watched that when I was a kid. So, what got you inspired to write romance novels? Or are you just
Uh,
that
hmm. That's a
loving
good question.
emotional person? I mean, because most guys are they're going to read about killing and destruction and fighting and blowing stuff up and a bunch of death and destruction. That's where the good stuff's at, man. So what brought you there? I mean,
I mean, when I was, give or take, I'd say 10 years old, 11, somewhere in that scale, I read Fitzgerald's book, F. Scott Fitzgerald's Tender is the Night,
okay.
literary classic, besides The Great Gatsby and The Lad. And I fell in love with that gentle prose where you feel kind of like, when you're reading it, you're not feeling attacked. You're not feeling like you have to rush somewhere or you're thinking of a bad situation. You're just feeling calm. You're feeling gentle. You're feeling at home. And I wanted to give that feeling out to everyone else by writing, by like being, hey, you can, with this book, you can take a break. You can just breathe, enjoy, relax. Things are okay. And that's eventually where it started.
Okay, so I've never actually written one. Like I do a little writing myself. It's just not a hobby though. But everyone's like, when I finish one, leading into a chapter, like things are like, why did you stop there? You just left us hanging. The suspense. Is there suspense in romance novels, or does it each chapter just kind of close out?
There is a lot of suspense in romance chapters and novels too. There's always some suspense. There's either some conflict between you and between the main character and antagonists. There's or some sort of conflict between the lovers. There's always gonna be something that's happening, like you know, let's use 50 Shades of Grey for an example. Big billionaire falls in love with a normal woman. Normal woman goes into a situation with this billionaire. They end up having to fight off secret agents, yada yada, because she gets into danger due to a jealous ex and so forth. There's always going to be some sort of situation stopping the couple from the end goal, being together. So you're always going to feel like you want things to happen, you want them to get together, but there's gonna be constant things getting in the way.
Okay.
That's the suspense novels, like suspense romance, or you have the gentle romance where it's just a slow and steady slide into the ending where they are finally in love and together,
So, is there ever any romance novels that went along the lines of the type of relationships I've been in, where the end almost comes down to a violent murder?
Uh, no, I
So
wouldn't say.
it's more of a rather really no, mine always when they say bad romance, it's like no, is it going to end with my trial and their funeral, or one way or the other. So I've just wondered if they ever had that type of element into a romance novel that ended with a fatal attraction type thing.
There's been quite a few famous novels that actually have. There's a good couple of spy novels and other novels where the main character either dies or you end up falling in love with a spy and that ends up being your death. It ends up being a fatal attraction. Or you sacrifice yourself for your partner, or all these situations where something bad happens to the character.
Are all of these? Well, I'm sure there are, but how many of them are, or percentage-wise, would you say are affairs? Or maybe there's a third involved. I mean, I guess you could have all kind of different romance angles.
There's a lot of romance novels that have affairs. I won't lie on that. There's a lot. There's there's the Apple Tree Yard that I read just a few months back, which was a married woman writing on her computer about a man she met in a gallery down in somewhere in the UK, I believe. I don't remember the exact area. And she had sex with him in the underground, and she kept writing that onto her computer, and eventually that story ends up in her going to court, having to face the consequences of her being a lover against someone else who has a lot of secrets. But that's just one example of many, many books that has unfaithfulness, cheating, affairs.
Okay. Before I go to this next question, are there romance novels where you have what I'm seeing more today, polyamorous relationships where you have more than two people involved?
There are, yeah. There's plenty of those too. That's a market in of itself, actually. That's a whole market.
Because I've seen that more. I don't know if it's changing of the times or what, because I see that more and more and more today.
Yeah, it's become an open thing in society as of late. Being instead of mono, you become polyamorous with other people, and it's in my eyes. This is specifically in my eyes only. I believe polyamorous relationships will end in failure no matter what you do. You can go on for years on years and you can love each other. You can love as many women as you want, but at the ending, it will end in failure. At the least, this is what I believe. But it's become an open market for books, for movies, for games.
So I wish I was laughing at you. When what you said made me laugh because I've noticed that it seems to be more prevalent among gay males than with and straight couples. And I laugh because I said I've never seen uh, I've never my friend when I was thinking about him, I said he was giving me one of those. And I said, dude, I've never seen anything work out between two gay males past one day. I said, now you're getting three of them involved in there. I said, this is going to end in a disaster, and it usually does. But I agree
No,
with you with that. A polyamorous relationship, I just don't see how uh, that would work in that. But I imagine it could be very interesting as far as the writing goes. Would
oh,
be a lot
it
of
definitely
stuff.
is. It is a very big untapped market that a lot of people are still using for money because a lot of women love those, triangles, love triangles or foursomes or the lot of groups that people fall in love with, different characters, different scenarios, yada yada, and it's very common with women too, not just men. Polyamorous relationships, very very common actually.
Maybe I don't get that enough. Okay. So this polyamorous, so this is a market that's just now starting to be tapped into, or it's got
It's
tapped into more
started,
recent.
mm, I would say it started a few years back. It
Yeah.
wasn't as popular in 2007, 2008. It wasn't as popular. 2013 to 15 is when it began becoming more popular.
Okay.
When
Yeah. I
society
definitely see that
began,
trend.
it's like
Yeah. Okay.
when society began opening up to BDSM, polyamorous relationships, love triangles, and the latter, this became a big, big market. BDSM became a market in of itself. Poly relationships became a market in itself. Love triangles for fantasy books too. It's a
What
whole.
I'm, and I don't know if I just thought of this, or if they've started writing or talked into it. Um, Transsexuals with or transgender. I mean, it started
LGBTQ.
yet? Huh?
Those have become very popular as of late. As of the last, I
I,
believe, 5 years.
well, I was fixing to say, so I would think since, I mean, I don't know about the rest of the world, but here in the United States, it's became more to the forefront. Yeah. So over the last 5 years, 5 or 6 years. So I was wondering if that had something that if anybody tapped into, because that would be the first thing I'd be thinking, bam, that's the market I would want to go after then.
Yeah, it's a very, very popular market. Very, very popular market. A lot of people are asking for gay erotica, gay romance,
Well,
and much more, or transsexual romance and more, much, LGBTQ in general.
I would have thought that the transgender, I could definitely say, I would have thought that and tell me if I'm wrong, that the market for LGBTQ
Mhm.
or well for gays and lesbians would have started really gaining steam in the 90s.
It
And I'm
did.
thinking again, I'm
It
the United
did.
States.
It did.
That's when the United States
Like,
started. Okay, don't ask, don't tell, and gays started getting more rights, and that's when I would think it would have started people. But I'm sorry to interrupt you. Go ahead, you tell me.
no, 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 no. It's okay. It's okay. It did begin getting big in the 90s, 1980, 1990s, 1970, 1980. But it was still looked down upon because of the civil rights and
Oh, of
the
course, yeah.
rights to marriage and the whole shebang in the US and Europe and other countries, India too, China, Japan, a lot
Yeah,
of
those
places.
countries. I mean, but I would think that Europe was so far ahead of the United States as far as allowing
It
that. I mean,
is.
it wasn't until
It is.
2014 when the United States Supreme Court. I mean, um, look at our President Obama and President Biden. They were against gay marriages up until the Supreme Court struck it down and made it legal in
Well,
2008. That's how, or 2014. That's how the country, the country was still against it. So I guess what I was going back to was it's similar to been more accepting in Europe as far as the United States. I guess that would still be more taboo here.
you
Um,
know, in Europe, it's rather normal. It's not new. It's still not widely accepted everywhere as of yet. There's still a few countries that are somewhat on the verge on these topics
Would
in
that
terms
be
of
the Eastern
gay
European
marriage.
countries?
Mhm.
Would that be more of the, would that be more of your Eastern European countries that used to be under Soviet domination?
No, I wouldn't say that. It's a mix between all of the countries, really. And it's not just Russia, which has its controversy with gay marriage laws and such, but some countries in Europe accept them, other countries don't, and there's no specific area in which they don't. Like Europe continent-wise, there's just specific countries in Europe just either like it or don't, but they know um they cannot deny them this right. They know this because of the European Union and the human rights and civil rights and the law. So they go along with it, but some countries still do not openly accept it. They're still not fully open accepting to it.
Uh, I've got a question for you, and it's
Mm.
something that is alarming to me because I've seen doctors come out saying this is normal and um, tr- trying to justify it. I actually watched one on a talk show the other night. Can you ever see or foresee it there being a market and I'm sorry, in this years down the road of a pedophilia book? Because I was watching this doctor the other night and she was trying to say how this is normal and natural and there's a movement here and they've got this NAMBLA stuff and I'm just afraid that one day we're going to see that to where it becomes accepted.
I hope not. I truly, truly hope not, because I
And I
find
do too. Don't please don't think that don't take it that I was
no, no,
asking.
no, I'm not. I'm just
It's
saying,
very
like,
disturbing.
market-wise, as in for the question, market-wise, I hope not. Considering I am open to people dating young at the age of 16 and dating someone older, like 23, 28, etc. I'm fine with that if both are consensual and both are okay with it and understand each other and can be proper adults. Because at 16, that's legal. You can have sex, you can go drink, you can do whatever. At 16, you're an adult. Fine, do whatever you want. But below that, below any legal age of which you would deem to be an adult and you would be deemed to be a fully fledged member of society, no. I I hope not. To dare God that there will be such a market. There is. There is one. On the deep web as well as on the general internet, there is one.
Mhm.
And
Yeah, yeah.
that there's been news on America, Asia about child abduction, child
Oh, yes,
pornography,
yes.
and a lot. And
Yeah,
there's been some books that have stopped pedophilia, of which I am disgusted over. I
and I don't
hope
even know if
see
you're
more.
aware of this. If you've been aware of this movement, this I mean, NAMBLA has been around for a while, but here of late, when I've started seeing this, these and it's small in the doctors in the medical community, but these doctors are now the movement are trying to almost decriminalize this. I'm like, well, this is not a route. We've got to draw a line somewhere. I hope it doesn't. Um,
I mean, I agree with you. I'm not going to disagree with you on that. There's got to be a line somewhere because
as
the
far
time,
as sex goes, I
like,
mean, like I said, it's about 16. I was it like here in the United States, the state that I live in, Alabama, the legal age is 16. They can go get
yeah,
married,
there's
whatever.
like some countries where the legal age is like 13 and
Well,
below. Like, why?
you can actually get consent for the age of 14. And the reason why is because it goes back to um, when a lot of times after the Civil War, especially um, the population of males, they had a pension. But when in the South was very poor. But when girls got to childbirthing age, the first thing they did was marry them off. And you know,
Yeah.
my grandmother get married my grandfather, and you know, this is in the 40s, almost 100 years ago. She married him. He was 18 and she was 14, and that's, you know, so they married him off. My mother was 15 and my father was 21, and they signed the thing so they get married. So it was a you know, there was just, society now would look at it, oh my god, that's horrible. Some of them would, but you know, but that's just how it was. They married him off then, you know, as soon as they got old enough to bear
Yeah.
children. It's just how it was.
You know,
Sorry, I
it
didn't
was
mean to cut you
pretty
off.
it was pretty normal for a good couple of years, not only just in the US, in Europe too. You know, you
Yeah,
get a child, you marry them off, either for money or aristocracy or God knows what reasons really, but that was normal. It was really, really normal.
yeah. I mean, essentially one less
Until
mouth to feed.
I believe it stopped being normal when we gave children proper human rights, when we gave them the rights to be children and the rights to have a proper childhood and go to school, enjoy friends, teaching, learning, etc. And that's good because we gave children a opportunity to study, to live life, to
Right.
not have to have the grim life of, hey, you're now a married woman at the age of 15, for God's sake.
Yeah, they should be. I
You're
mean, that's just a child
15.
themselves.
Like
Um,
I was what do you call it? I was engaged at a young age. Personally speaking, I was engaged. I wasn't married, no, I was engaged. And that person was around, I believe, 1 or 2 years younger than myself. That is the only time I accepted being engaged to someone younger or at a young age because you were of equal age, or at least, within 1 or 2 years. But after 4 or 5 years, that's a big red flag there. That's a big no.
I got another question I got thinking of since I don't when I had that question pop up about that
Mm.
market for that. Is there a genre, or I guess that's the right word, a market? Is it for teenage love stories or for older people? You know, like 60s, 70s. Is there anything
There
like
is
that?
there's both of those market. There's the young adult romance, which is the teenage romance or coming of age even. There's that too. And there's the older times. Your older times is basically 60, 70, 80, etc.
Mm-hmm.
Love stories between the young people. Or
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
you could call it just classic romance. Really,
What
that's it.
What about like because I mean I've seen, you know, all kind of movies like this. What about like of course obviously you wouldn't get into sex stuff, but like with um I can't my something middle school kids like 12, 13-year-old kids, you know, the movie like with My Dog Skip and, you know, and My First Kiss, or are there novels about that?
Yeah,
I
you can
I
call
guess
those coming of age.
puppy
There's
love.
they're coming of age novels. They're
Okay.
stories where you just follow the young child growing up and during their first game, their first heartbreak, their first kiss, their first love. Uh,
Yeah, you
you
think
know,
life is gonna end at that point when you lose your first
yeah,
girlfriend, and yeah,
God,
think about
we've
that.
all been there.
Yeah, I was like, oh my god, what am I gonna do? I mean, yeah, I'll never live. Yeah, no. Part of the maturing process. So in these novels, do you have the antagonist and protagonist, and then the passive protagonist and antagonist, or like you do in other novels?
Which one specifically? Like, which genre are you talking about?
I mean, like um, do you have the okay? Like a story writing right now. So alternate military history story, and these is wrapped around The name of it's Richmond Grad. It's about a climactic battle in Richmond, the final battle of the Civil War, and it's wrapped around it's about the novel, a 14-year-old boy, 14-year-old Southern boy who they call the boy sniper, and he represents really the Southern male at 14. It coming from I think it was the William Faulkner poem. I don't know if you're familiar with that. But anyways, he said,
I am, yeah.
okay, well, where he says and he's talking about the Battle of Gettysburg, and he says every 14-year-old Southern boy at 2 o'clock they look up there and say, anyway, he represents the Southern the Southern kid, and then you have the guy from the general on the northern side, and everybody hates him. They want to kill him. So I guess that's what I'm getting at. I mean, you have somebody in the character that everybody loves and everybody just despises.
Well, you have those in almost every novel. But I believe at least in almost every novel, for almost every novel I've read in terms of romance, be it Regency, historical, jazz romance, normal, erotic, whatever, there's always some sort of antagonist or passive antagonist or protagonist and passive protagonist. There's either the protagonist being the antagonist themselves by going into their head and saying, all these bad things or some psychological thing going on with them, or there's going to be some sort of boy getting in the way, there's going to be some sort of lover getting in the way. There's always some type of character you can almost call an antagonist, or you can fully out call them the antagonist. There's no in between.
And I know we touched on this the other night, but some people don't know. Do you consider yourself like, when I start writing something, I have no idea how it's going to start, how it's going to end, or anything like that? An impulse writer? Are you an impulse writer, or do you already know what's going to happen in your story?
I'm an absolute impulse writer. I do not plan. I can't plan for the love of my life. I can't plan hotels. I can't plan vacations. I'm the sort of person who will do anything on, I want to do this now. And I will do it. I'll just do it.
Okay, I like that. I mean, that's me. I have planned, hey, I'm going to Florida next week, but I've been the type too that, hey, let's go, and the next thing I know, I'm thinking I'm there going, man, what was I thinking? But I kind of, I could never sit there and plan it out because it wouldn't go how I wanted it to go. Like I said, because when somebody asked me that, and I told them, I said, I have no idea. The hardest thing for me is to get the first sentence out. And then once I get the first sentence out, I can go. Do you ever find yourself when you're writing that you're having to, it feels like you're forcing it and it doesn't feel natural?
Actually, that's gonna go into a thing. I never really told these on any interviews ever before. Couple years back, 2014, 2013, I stopped writing for at least 3 to 4 years, entirely. I couldn't write whatsoever. There was something that happened to me a few years back, private mostly, and when that happened, I had gotten a trauma where my hands would start to shake every day. I would cry at the keyboard. I would entirely collapse at the keyboard. I still have these things to this day forward, but not as badly anymore. There are days when I will look at the keyboard and I will just absolutely collapse like that, just not able to do anything, not able to speak, not able to breathe, and having panic attacks. But I do have those moments where I simply cannot write. I have to force it, and then when I force it, it's bad for me because the more you force something, it's just gonna end up shit. You can't. It doesn't feel natural, and the reader can feel that it's forced because you're not putting any passion or love into it.
I can relate totally with that because I mean, there's times that and it just I'm like, and you know when you're forcing it, it just does not feel right at all. And I think, especially you who's a professional writer. I mean, you're probably. I mean, I know I'm my own worst critic at it, so I know that you're probably just on yourself all the time, like wanting to be wanting it to be good. I mean,
I judge myself every day. When it comes to writing, I am the utmost worst critic of all time. I will never ever accept compliments on my writing ever. That is something that I have learned I am unable to do. I am never able to take compliments well, and I cannot seem to be positive about my writing no matter what I do. I will look at it and I will say, this is shit, I'm gonna replace this. This is shit, I'm gonna replace this. And I'm gonna go in this cycle for months. I
um, why why can you not take compliments when I post something? I, I cringe and I hold my breath. It's not that I want compliments. It's just that why? I mean, like I say, you're doing it I do it for. I want the people to be entertained. As long as they enjoy it, then I'm fine. And I'm just like just cringing, just holding my breath. Like, God, did they enjoy that? Is it okay? It's not that I really want the compliment. I just don't want to let them down. Does that make sense? I mean,
uh, yeah, it does. I'm not the same. I don't enjoy pleasing people. Actually, I do write for people, mostly for myself, but also for people. But I'm not the type of person who will accept my own writing if I know it can be done better. If I know
well, I'm sorry. Go
this
ahead. No.
can be done better, I will think of it as shit until I have perfected it. I'm a
When,
perfectionist.
okay, that's good. You said you was not writing for people. Who were you writing for?
Honestly, nowadays myself.
Okay,
Now
that's
mostly
that's fine.
myself. As of late, as of these last 2 years. Before that, I wrote only because not writing would drive me to suicide. That was the single only reason I ever continued writing was that. It would drive me to suicide if I didn't.
Um, sorry, I lost my train of thought there. Have you ever? Because I've did this before, and like I said, this is just what I'm doing now. Is a Facebook. I started off as a Facebook post. I used to have notebooks just everywhere of stuff, and I hadn't did it in a while. I wanted to specialize in knack, and it just started off as a Facebook post. They said like really loved it, and here I was a year later, and then but I've posted stuff, and when I was talking about not feeling natural, and I'm like just holding my breath, and I'm like this was so bad, it's awful, and everybody's like, oh my god, that was so great. How did you come up with that? I mean, have you ever had that experience where you think something's just
I
awful and everybody?
have, I have after I went public. I stopped working for a publishing company as a contractor. I worked as a contractor under NDA to write erotic stories for money because it paid the bills monthly. And then once I stopped that and I went public about 3 years back, I decided, hey, I want to do self-publishing. I have no one. I have no company behind me. I have no editor. I have no one else. I just want to do this because I want to write what I want to write. And I decided to share those things on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and a lot, and people began liking it. It began getting traction. Like I began posting small excerpts, and they just like, hey, I really like this. I love this. I This is great. Da da da. I'm like,
So
shit.
is that how it got started? Is doing that? Because I mean, that's when I don't know. I think I told you that the other night about getting it manuscripted. Like I said, it was just a Facebook post, and then I followed up with a second and third, and then I've just got all these compliments, and then I started writing. So because that's the reason I asked that. I hear people about self-publishing, and I didn't really know what they was talking about. Is that how it goes? Just put stuff on Instagram and somebody finding it, and or
Well, for me, no. For me, no. I worked for a publishing company for a couple of years first.
uh,
That was the first thing I did. The private contracting. So for me, my career started a couple of years back in 2000 and I'm not sure, 2015 or 17, somewhere along there when I was in college. because I was doing contracting while college. And after I quit that, my public career, instead of the private one, because I left the private one, and then I decided, hey, I want to go public. My public career started 3 years ago in 2019 or mid 2019. I decided to post stuff on Instagram because a friend told me, hey, you should post this stuff on Instagram. You should start becoming your own brand. You should, you don't know where you want to go now after you quit working for a company. You're free to do whatever. You're free to write whatever. So why not make your own brand? And I followed that advice. I went with it. I said, okay, fine. I started posting on Instagram first and foremost. Then on Facebook, I started sharing short stories on Facebook, which gained like 500-600 followers in a week, less than a week.
Sorry to interrupt you. Would you post the entire story at once, or was you posting like, chapter 1, chapter 2, chapter 3, or how did you do that?
I posted very, very small excerpts of a prior noveletta that I wrote, a small short story novella that was shit. I first published it without any, proper editing, blah, blah, blah. That was what gained traction first, and then I began marketing my newestly launched book, Atlas Loved, on, I believe, a year and 5 or 6 months ago, give or take. Don't quote me on this. This was a year and some months ago. I began posting stuff about that novel by showing the cover and very small excerpts, like, let's say, a small paragraph of a chapter 2 or chapter 3, a small little paragraph. And people began loving those paragraphs. It's like, oh, hey, I love this. This is good. This is nice. This is da da da. And that's what began gaining more traction. I went from 100 followers to 2,000 in less than a week.
When you say that, you're talking about followers, do you have a private page, like a Facebook page that you put these on, or do you have just a whole account that you do it, or?
I have two public accounts, one on Facebook and one on Instagram, and another one on Goodreads. Goodreads for the ones.
What exactly is Goodreads? Is that a pay site?
Is the one site everyone trusts to read the reviews of a book and to have quotes of a book on. So if you really like the book, you're probably going to leave a review on Goodreads instead of Amazon. Amazon is good because it makes the book come across to more people, and it makes it, the book looks trustworthy. But on Goodreads, it shows you how many people have read it, how many people have liked it. They will post excerpts of the book. They will post quotes of the book. They will leave reviews like, this book is good, or I like this book because da 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 da. There's even authors who use it. There's famous author Stephen King himself uses it too. It's one of the most trusted review sites in terms of books.
What would you say, like, because I thought about this a while back, because I joined these author groups and writing groups, and I was joined them just to want myself to get better, so I could hopefully I became a better writer and I could be more interesting. And then I joined them and it's like, well, what do you think I should name this character? And what do you think I should do that? It seems a waste of time. And so what I thought about doing then was I thought, well, man, what if I formed a group for people who just like writing and people to read their stories? And is there groups like that out there where people just write their stories and people follow it? I mean, for people who are, like I said, are just having, or just, it's just a hobby to them, who's not trying to go out there and, like what you said, flood the market. I mean, because what I've seen in these aspiring authors, I've got, 30,000 people in there, and it's just like, guess what I'm saying? And I'm not trying to put any of these people down. They may be great, but it's just not somebody who I think would probably be good to saturate the market, as you said the other night.
I mean, I agree with you. I don't like the market being oversaturated. It already is oversaturated enough by, as of late, there's the pro-female movement where it's always a female lead, and there's more and more female
I can
writers
see that.
now, and there's male writers. Male writers, I believe, will become less and less as of now because I don't think there's going to be a lot of great male novelists anymore. Not in the modern market, at least. Not current market. Because
Well, is
as
there a
writers
Facebook group
become
like that, or do
pro
you think that'd be a
female,
good idea for one?
I don't know. It's become a very oversaturated female market,
No,
mostly
no.
because
Well, I mean, do you think that would be because that would be a good Facebook group to start, or these people
in,
who is just
in
before they go write their own stories, they're trying to oversaturate everything else. Hey, just come write your story here because nobody's going to buy it, and you're just wasting everybody's time. Because I thought about
I
starting.
mean, there's thousands of these groups on Facebook. I'm in some of them too because I just wanted to test some grounds out to see where I can gain traction and not. And I see a lot of budding authors or budding artists, not authors really, just budding artists who are writing short stories or poems or whatever. And I believe it's good that we have these groups because it makes sure the market isn't oversaturated by even more less skilled people
Mm-hmm.
than it already is. At least those people stay there in those groups and write and whatever. And then you have the real authors who actually do the work every night and every day to make sure they get published and that they get their book out there and more. So
Yeah,
it's good
instead
to
of
have.
somebody who is just a hobby too and plays around and then
Yeah.
tries. Yeah, I see what you're saying. I mean, because like this thing right here, I don't even know how many words are in it, and but it's like something that I might write a post on it in 2 weeks and may not touch it again for or as in a real author, the ones that I've talked to, they sit there and go 6, 7, 8 hours sometimes and not stop
Oh,
writing and then read.
I'm much the same. I have my partner who tells me like, honey, you need to sleep. You haven't slept, eaten, or drank anything for the last 20 hours or 30 even. Um, I will often go into the zone and I will go out from 8 hours to 30 hours plus, and I will not notice. I will sit there for 30 hours straight, back pain and all, and I will not notice that I have not eaten, slept, drank, or even moved in the slightest until I press enter on the last paragraph that I'm wanting to write that one day. Until that moment, I will not notice anything.
I've not, I have had something like that before. I mean, like I said, I'm not trying to sound or
Mm.
put myself nowhere in any kind of author stuff, but where I went and I was turned around, I was like, God, I've been doing this for 9 hours, and I didn't really realize how far I'd gone. But I was also having fun with it too, instead of feeling, like it was something I had to do. I don't know if that's part of being a real author,
I
how
mean,
real authors do.
there's no rule to being an author. There never was, never will be. You
Um,
can write whatever the hell you want, however you
what
want.
about these things like that? Because one thing I was talking to you when I was talking to you the other night and asking you questions, um, and and I'll read this stuff and stuff I was taught in school, and I'll read other authors say this right here, like you never start something with ing, or you never start a sentence with adverb, and so you never use an adverb when you don't have to. And I'm reading all these different guys saying these different things. I'm like, yeah, who, who am I supposed to believe here? What would you tell a young author that? I mean,
I mean, if I would have to tell a young author something, it's don't write. Do, do, do not write. For the love of God, do not write. Well, I mean it like not as a joke, both as a joke and not. For the love of God, if you are young, do not sit down and write. That is the most horrible pain you will ever endure. If you truly want to give an experience to the reader, you will sit there and you will feel every single thing that you wrote. Every feeling and emotion, every sensation, every memory that you write will be you and only you feeling all of it. Because it is necessary to feel everything to make sure that the reader feels it too. And I took that for granted so many years ago. So many years ago, I took that for granted. I thought, hey, this is normal. This is probably normal. This is okay to, sit here and feel horrible every day, until I learned that it is normal, but it's also part of the process. It's something you have to accept about yourself, is you're going to have to feel these things. You're going to have to feel everything. No, and
One thing that when I first started, I did. It was I lost my train of thought there. Character development. Yeah. Do you find it hard developing a character? Because I've had ones where it was so easy, so easy, and I could explain this character. So then I've got one that's like, just seems like just a dummy over here in a mannequin in a mall. How do you go about developing a character?
I could use an example, actually. When I was writing John Holloway of my book Atlas Loved in the 1940s, 1960s, or 1960s to 1980s, I believe. I forgot the years I put him into. John Holloway started out as a sentence from a prompt, or not a prompt, a quote I saw on Pinterest about Atlas, the mad god, Atlas loving someone madly, bearing the world on his shoulders, yada yada. And then I started that off with that quote, and he became that kind of sort of very rough American guy, very, I hate my life, I hate what I've done, I hate everything, I regret everything, blah blah blah.
Go back to where you was at when you said 1940, because I had a phone call in and it put you on hold, and I just got to right there, and I don't know why I did that.
Okay. What was the question again?
It was let's see, I gotta get you back on camera because I can't see you right now. It was my camera not showing you.
Character development.
Yes, let me get back in here. And yes. Well, now it's just me. Where are you at? Is your camera on?
My camera. Yep.
Where's William at?
Take it on.
Let's see here. Let me go here. Not finding you. Can you see me?
I see that. Yeah, I see your entire phone.
There we go. Okay, now we're back. Okay, character development. You was talking about somebody in the 40s, right?
Yeah, 1940 to 1960, somewhere give or take that area. And by the way, you're sharing your screen, just so you know. So
yeah,
that's
it's fine. I don't know what I did, but I had to get can you? What are you saying, me or what? Can you?
It's showing your entire phone screen, the Facebook messages and everything.
How is that? That's not what I wanted to do. Is be showing my Facebook messages. All right, let's see. Let me go here and stop.
You click stop sharing screen on Skype.
Yeah, let me go back up under here because let's go back here.
You see that button on top? Click stop sharing screen in blue.
Yes, but let me get back in here. Stop sharing screen. Stop sharing screen.
Oh, there we go.
Is it gone?
Yep.
Okay. All right. Sorry. Go ahead.
Okay. So, hold on. There we go. So, character development. I started John Holloway in terms of my novel in Atlas Loved as a sort of rough-hewn guy without knowing, actually, ever. I didn't know it would become that sort of American American patient in a sanatorium, and I thought he was gonna be a very gentle, very very loving person,
Yeah.
but he developed on his own. And I think for me, character development has been very natural because it just comes along with the story development. So what happens in the story sort of says what the person is becoming or who the person is. So that's how I develop my characters. Like he he started having sessions with his doctor, being sarcastic, being
Okay,
an
I think
asshole.
because okay, all right, that sounds really good because that I think that'll help me more because that kind of got me to thinking of one of the favorites in this thing that I was doing. Anyway, make a long story short, it was a battle scene and a lot of the commanding officers were killed and ended up being a lower officer and uh, command strength command structure in the army is different. Uh, in the enlisted, a sergeant major is the highest up. Major is kind of like a mid-ranking officer, and there was a scene where this battle happens, and this major goes, "Who's in charge here?" And and the sergeant major goes, "You are, sir. Now, what the hell are we supposed to do?" And from there, he developed into this cranky old sergeant major that was just rough, and then everybody fell in love with the guy. So, thanks for sharing that because I think that will help me. Because I've had problems with that. You know, how do you develop a character? Have you ever had a character that you developed and then you figured out it was based on somebody you knew?
Yes, actually, yes.
Yeah. Uh, how long did it take you to realize that you were writing that character? That was the character you was writing about.
I believe it took me 2 days after I was half into the novel. Like after I was in half of the novel already, half the story was written out. I realized 2 days later that hey, this is based off of someone I actually know. Shit. And I told them like, hey, I think this character is you, and I had them read the character and like, you are scary. You have depicted me from point A to point B fully, completely, and perfectly.
That is so awesome because I've had a few of those things when I used to do this when I was like, oh my god, that's my friend, that's my friend there. Um, um,
Mm.
the in the fiction or the love fiction books, how many of the characters die? I mean, is there a percentage that they get killed off, or the ending is where they die, or they all move off happily into the sunset and live the rest of their lives out in the kingdom? And
You know, there's a very high percentage of where main characters or love interests die. Pretty normal nowadays anyway. And then there's the very high percentage where people also end up in happy relationships, but it's sort of like a go in between market. Sometimes people want very dark stories during specific months, and then sometimes when it's summer, they want those, you know, very light stories, very quick to read, very gentle, very uh, fresh, like a fresh breath of air. You want to sit out there on the beach, and you read some loving story that's fun and enjoyable and full of sarcastic remarks and jokes and a lot, or coming of age novels or travel novels, all those sort of things. So it depends on the time of year.
um, deaths, I mean, I know it probably varies. I mean, is it, yeah, you have the ones where people are just taken out instantly, or it's a struggle, or at the end, or um, somebody's murdered, or
Mm.
just ends again, or
I notice a lot of novels like to torture or make slow deaths happen over time.
you think it's so they can say goodbye, or they can make them feel the loss of a loved one?
I think it's more like a build up so that the climax feels heart wrenching. It's like you get attached to the character and you start building up the slow pace of the death scene that's gonna about to come, and then it happens. Then it really happens, and they say goodbye, or they're leaving one last moment, or they're self-sacrificing, or whatever else. That it's a whole build-up, always a build-up. Actually, it's the same as I did for a couple of my own works too.
What about if they had one? I mean, was kind of thought of me about. Got this book and you're 300 pages into it and everything's going and they're just sitting there and then bam, the girl shot or something or he shot and the book ends there. It just kind of just ends like this when The Sopranos cut out. You ever see anything like that?
I have, yeah, a couple novels like that. There's also Hemingway's novel too, which the main character just dies and that's it. Like literally, that's the end of the book.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like this, yeah, like they're walking down there and like, God, this is just gonna be such a bam, and or they're just dead, and then that's just how it stops.
Yep.
I mean, to me, I'm sorry, that just seems like an awesome. That seems like that would either be people would either just be pissed off and hate that, or it seems like God, that would be so awesome. How are those books received?
I was reading a few novels as of late, and then there's one novel that I was reading, and I was looking forward to something good happening at the end because it was building up to be this very happy, super great ending, and then just moments later at the last page, it's like the end. Main character just died. That's it. It's like looking for more pages. Like where's the rest of the story? Where's the happy ending? Where's everything? Nope, that's it. That's the end. That's it. You're not getting any more. Main character's just dead. I'm sitting here like, oh fuck you, author. I was hoping for something.
Have you ever killed a character off and regretted it and brought him back?
Twice. I didn't plan to. One time I did. I was upset on one day and I just decided, you know what, this story deserves to be a proper fucking ending with a sad, heart-wrenching twist. And I'm like, okay, you're gonna die. That's it. This is the end of the novel. A day later, I woke up and like, you know what? This novel could do better with the main character still alive. Let's bring him back.
That because there's an ask that was kind of like what I did with the what I said about the Sergeant Major. And I had him in there, and I thought, oh, this would be good. So I just, I loved him though as a character, so I killed him off. And then I kept, and everybody loved him, and and it was like, it wasn't the same without him. And then I was like, how do I bring him back? And I was like, the guy got shot in the back of the head. How do I bring him back? And then somehow I forgot even what I called. Well, I forgot how I titled the or it was like I don't remember if the chapter was titled "The Resurrection" or "One Returns from the Dead," but when I brought him back, anyway, the major who I was telling you about earlier, he hears a voice talking to him. He looks up into the silhouette. He could see him looking down, and it takes him a minute to figure out. And then, anyway, the way I explained it was, yeah, he got shot in the back of the head, but I took out. It was only a flesh wound that knocked him out. And they thought he was dead and took him away. And everybody loved it and brought it back. But that's what I was like. How do I bring this guy back? But everybody seems. But it worked out because like I said, he was everybody's favorite character besides him and the 14-year-old kid. So, how many books have you actually written? Or hold on, let me rephrase that. How many stories, novels, short stories?
Let's see. Publicly, it would be one. Privately, for another company, it would be 6 or 7. I've lost count. And short story wise, I've written at least 2 books that I have yet to publish, short story wise, and 1 poetry book that I've yet to publish. So 8 novels, give or take, so to speak. Some of them for other company, and this one that I recently published as of late.
Do you have different writing styles?
I think I do. I have noticed that some people have told me specifically, like in some projects I will write differently, and in other projects I will have my own true writing style, which is more or less the elegant writing style that's sort of like Fitzgerald, F. Scott Fitzgerald's. That's my true writing style. It's that sort of gentle wine tasting style where you read and you feel this is nice, this is elegance, this is pretty good, tasteful, nice, and it feels like a 1970s or 1960s America in a jazzy style. And then I have that very rough style where I write rough characters and I will follow that very rough American style, like John Steinbeck type of style. The rough American, so to speak.
Who is your favorite author?
That would be either F. Scott Fitzgerald or Hemingway, for two specific reasons. Fitzgerald, because he was a very romantic and elegant writer who I, to this day forward, adore and will always revere as one of my greatest inspirations. Or Hemingway, because of his, I suppose you could call it every true sentence that he has ever written. Because every sentence he writes it's like juice. You get addicted. Sentence one, you're hooked. That's it. You're not dropping that book.
I want to go back to something that I want to come back to this right here. I'll go. I was talking to you. Well, we got mixed up there when some of these authors. What do you say to these people who say you can't start a sentence off with ly or ing, or you can't start off with a conjunction, or you can't start off with a or the or
the adverbs or whatever. I would say write whatever you want. Honestly, there's no rule to writing. There never was. There never will be.
And that's what it's just like us. It seems like that's what I wonder, because when I read these things, it seems it comes off as a, you can't use that word. It's like, well, wait a second, when did this become a rule as far as authors go? One guy said, don't ever use the word was, and I'm like, you can't ever say was? Why?
Truth be told, every writer is a big fucking narcissist. I myself am one. You probably are one too. Every writer in this world, one big egocentric narcissist.
Yeah, sure.
And there's no lying around it.
Yeah. Okay. I think you've got a good point to that. Yeah. Because I've had, and I'll tell you just a funny story. This one group I was in, one of the members, the guy just absolutely hates me, which I don't really care one way or another, but like anything we're talking, any subject matter we're on discussing, if I told you the sky was blue, he'd call me a liar and say it's green. And so he comes across like 3 of these things that I'd written, and he goes, "Man, this is really good. Who wrote this?" And I was like, "Oh, it's me. It's something I wrote." It's like, here's the story of it. So I gave him the first link of the thing, and he just starts in just cutting me this right and just criticizing everything. I was like, "What? Well, I go, you loved it, man. You found out I wrote it." So I've seen that a lot among people. I don't know what their problem is, but I found that was very humorous.
I mean, I don't share my work publicly anywhere besides a few beta readers and an editor. That's it. Or besides my partner, she and a few other people are the only people I allow to see my writing. Otherwise, never, ever. I don't ever share them. But I know that a lot of people will be having that superiority complex because they're an experienced author or experienced this or that, and they will say, "Hey, I write in this way, therefore you must write in that way. So you must start with this and that way." And
this guy right here, though, he wasn't even a writer. He was just, he told me, because he wasn't even a writer, and if a writer was criticizing it, that's fine. I'm okay with the critique, but he wasn't even a writer. It was just the fact that I wrote it, because then he starts going, the storyline's so unbelievable, and this right here, and blah blah blah. And I said, look, man, it's alternate history. I don't really think you have to have a believable storyline for alternate history. And I said, and I can tell you, it's a lot more believable than Guns of the South. I don't know if you ever heard that book or not, but this guy who has made a fortune off alternate history, Harry Turtledove, wrote a book called Guns of the South, and it's supposedly where these people go back in time and buy AK-47s and bring them back to the Confederate Army, and they end up with. Okay, now
Jesus Christ.
my story of a climactic, Battle of Berlin, Stalingrad battle is a lot more believable than time machine, that. So, that's what I told him. But yeah, so he just did that. Is there any other? I mean, with writers or with authors, like yourself, I've noticed that most of them have just one thing that they stay with. Is that common, or do you see them?
Yeah, once you find out your true writing style, you find out what your brand is and what your niche is.
Okay.
I found out mine is elegant jazz romance, jazz age stories, classics, and so I stuck to that. And then there's people who write sci-fi. There's people who write adventure, thrillers, spy novels, you name it. And
because like we were thinking about, we were talking about that, and I think about the John Grishams and Stephen King, and just those that, because I was thinking the other day, somebody it said something to me, and that the reason I asked you that because when he said, I told you about the guy was having to get manuscript. He said you have a knack for writing war. And I don't know if it'd be alternate history just with war, but he said you have a knack for writing about combat. He said the way you describe it, and you're very descriptive in it. So I thought, well, maybe that's what I should always do. But when my hobby is just stay with that instead of writing something and looking totally foolish doing it.
I mean, I advise every author and reader to try every field first and foremost.
Well, so I would never know how to write like I would never know how to write a fiction. I mean, how to write a love story. I would not know.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. Like, try every field, not because it's not your field, but because it'll give you experience. It'll give you understanding of how different things function, and it'll help you become a better writer in of itself by trying new areas and seeing what can I take from this.
Should it be something that you find interest in, something that you like, because or trying to think the way I want that. Something that you're passionate about. I thought about writing a story of a campaign, like for president or for governor or something, because I have a desire or a deep burning passion for politics. I thought, hey, that might be fun. I could sit there and develop all these candidates in this campaign and blah, blah, blah. So is it something that you should be passionate about when you're writing, or just pick any subject and go?
When you're writing, you should be passionate about it either way, because non-passionate writing ends up shit one way or another. It just ends up shit. There's no good writing that is good when it's not passionate. But if you're just trying out new fields, it doesn't have to be passionate. All you're doing is trying out new fields to learn. That's it. You want to take away something from every genre and make it your own. Proper stealing, but in style. You do this in media, you do this in writing, you do this in dancing, music, whatever. You steal in style. Boom. And you make it your own. But if you're not trying new fields, I would say write passionately about what you are passionate about. That will end up being your biggest goal and biggest driving force every single day of your life. Whatever you are passionate about.
What do you do when you have a sentence and you know how a sentence should go, but you can't but you can't word it right? I mean, this word should go here. No, this word needs to go here, or no, I need to change the structure. I mean, do you ever have that problem where you know what the sentence is and how it should sound, you write it,
You
it
know,
doesn't.
I sometimes do, and that's why I have editors at my disposal. It's like if I find some sentences badly written, I'm gonna leave them there, probably, and I know my editors will fix them because
I
they
don't
will
know
see that, and
if it's,
I'll leave
it's badly written, but you just can't find the perfect way to
express it.
express it. Yeah, that's something that was
I
like, man,
do have those problems at times. I give you an example. Atlas Lodge was finished in less than 5 weeks. Literally, that book was finished in less than 5 weeks. Almost a full book actually.
how many words?
And I left that book be for 5 or 8 months, give or take. Don't quote me on that. I left that book be for months after I almost finished it because I couldn't find ways to express what I wanted to express. I was burned out and I could not, for the love of God, find any form of way or manner to express what I truly wanted to express in those sentences. So if I stop at a sentence and I can't express it, I'll either take a break or I'll think, why can't I express it? What am I trying to express that is so hard? Because there's always some reason. It's either your emotions, some trauma, some memory, something to do with the characters, something to do with your daily life, what you're feeling, these things. There's some reason that you can't. And you always need to take that perspective and just sit away from what you're writing and sit there like, why can't I express this? I need to figure out why. After you do, then it's easier, a lot easier.
What do you do when you have writer's block?
I don't know. I don't know. I didn't write for 3 years after that trauma that happened to me. So that took a lot of pushing and convincing, healing, and much more just to get me out of that and to start me writing again. But when I had writer's block as of late, when I stopped being able to write on Atlas Loved, I almost went on a 5 month vacation. I didn't write for 5 months. Just stopped entirely, left it be, and then 5 months later I come back to it and reread the last, I believe, 4 sentences, and from there on out I just began writing what felt natural. Like I got a feeling after those 4 sentences, like, oh, okay, let's go, boom, that's it. So I advise taking a break, big one if you need one, short one, whichever. Get a new perspective, drink some alcohol, have some sex, go on a vacation, go party, whatever it is you like to do, go do it. Whatever activity, whatever physical, mental, emotional, whatever it may be, go do it. Come back later, and you'll find yourself able to write again.
Have you ever sat there and wrote a chapter or just wrote something and sit there and go, man, that was so great, it flowed so good, and then look at it and be like, oh my god, that's awful.
I have. I wrote Atlas Loved in 5 months, so yeah, no, 5 weeks, and so I wrote like 5 chapters in less than 2 weeks, give or take. Then I thought to myself, all these 5 chapters are great, and then came 6 chapters and 7 chapters, and I was looking at it, this is fucking awful. This is fucking disastrous, awful. I hate it. I deleted the entire fucking chapter later.
What I hear these people in some of these groups, these people are probably, if they're watched, they'll probably get pissed at me, but I don't care. They say I don't comment a lot, but I see them. Somebody will post something, and yeah, I don't know if it's to build themselves up, make themselves feel better or something, but now these people ask the question like, hey, is this enough words for a book or for, and it's like, maybe for a day or maybe for a week. And I'm thinking, why don't you just answer the question and help these people out. But are these people in there? You find them almost like they're hating on other people, and I don't get that. I mean, have you noticed that in these groups?
The people who
People, it
always
seems
have
like
something to say.
people are always, instead of like when I've seen these things, helping each other. Instead of helping each other, these people are trying to put the other person down. Why, this person just asking a question? Why are you trying to, down them? I don't understand. Why are these people? Are they
Yeah,
bitter?
that's so common in almost every group online nowadays. That's super, super common. That's like every group I see on Facebook, on Instagram, YouTube, even with specific YouTuber groups and writers groups, artists groups, painters, even musicians. There's always someone trying to put you down. There's no other reason than they want to. They have nothing going on in their life, or they have some emotional trauma ongoing in their life to the point that they only can express it by saying, I hate what you're doing. I don't like what you're doing because you're doing something that I want to do, or you're doing something that makes me feel, that makes me react, or I want to change this. I want to do it in my own way, and they're not going to do it, so they're going to complain about it.
Yeah, because I've seen that. One the day is this young lady, and and I don't know, and you can tell me the difference in something in the number of words, but they just all started just jumping on her because they didn't write enough words or whatever to express her. And I was like, it's just, if she's happy with it, who really cares? And I don't know if this is make these people feel better about themselves or pick them up, but I just think it's really tacky. How many words is it from or explain the difference of short story, book, novel? Is there so many words that especially go into each one for to be classified as that?
Short story can be 5,000 words, give or take. That's a short story. That's a couple pages. That's it. That's all it is. Novel is between 50,000 to 70,000. And then it depends on the genre you're writing. In sci-fi or adventure or like fantasy, you're gonna want 100,000 or 120,000, 150,000, 200,000 at times even. The romance novels can be 50 to 70,000 or 80,000, and it depends on the genre really. But
and I'm sorry, go ahead.
There's a difference between the short story and a novel. Short story is usually just a few pages, 1 or 2 pages mostly, really. And a novel is a whole book.
Okay, so what about when you say 1 or 2 pages? And I don't know why this came into this. Trying to think of a short story. Something that has 60 or 70. I don't know why I'm thinking of this right here, but I remember when the movie Brokeback Mountain came out, and they said it was based on a book like 42 or 52 pages. Or is that a short story? Or is that a book?
52 pages is a short story.
I think it was 82. Okay. All right, because when you said I was
50 pages, that's a short story. That's entirely a short story.
Because I was confused there when you said 1 or 2. I was thinking like 1 or 2. And I see what you mean.
Originally, most short stories are very short, 1 or 2 pages. But there are some other short stories that are like 100 pages, 200 pages most. No, not even 200 pages, 100 pages at most. That's a short story. 200 to 300, that's a book.
So like when I was a kid, I used to like, and I don't know if you've ever heard of them. I love the Louis L'Amour westerns, and he would have some that'd be 120 or 130 pages, and some 350 or 400. 150, is that a short story? Is that going to be a book?
150 can be a book, but it depends. You do have some stories that are like 150, 180 pages that there are titled the book, but I would see them categorized as a short story, really. Unless it's 250 pages, it's a book. Like a book is at least 250 pages. Anything below that is a short story.
And I remember what I was wanting to add on to that a while ago, because there was a guy who in one of the groups I was writing, he said, and it shouldn't be me that he said this about because I don't want to be anybody's inspiration on this, but he said that I was his inspiration to start writing. I was like, oh man, but I'm not a writer. I mean, I'm just having fun with this. I'm not I do not consider myself an author, but he kept writing. He's been writing the story now for a long time, and he kept asking me to critique it. And I said, I'm not somebody that should be critiquing it. I'm not that type of person. He wouldn't leave me alone. And I just finally said, I think you need to do this. If I do this, because I didn't want to hurt his feelings or anything, because I just thought it was boring. I didn't like it. So I mean, I don't know how somebody should go about asking somebody to critique it, and how, if you're critiquing something, should you just be totally honest with them?
If you're critiquing something, you should be 100% honest. They want real critique. They want real honesty. They want you to tell them honestly, how do you feel about this? Is it boring? Okay, just say it. Doesn't matter. We'll fix it.
Because when he kept on, and when I finally said, I told him, I said, look, I said, I think it's boring. It's hard for me to follow along. Characters, I don't see anything out of them, and to me, it's just something that I'm not interested in personally. And he got mad, never asked me to critique it again, and that's what I am with. I'd rather somebody not ask me to critique it, because I don't want to tell you if I don't like it. If I ask somebody to critique it, I want them to be brutally honest with me.
That's all you need. Brutal honesty. That's
because when I was telling you that, people kept telling me, go get this done, manuscript, and I said, well, okay. I said, I'm going to show it to Dr. Kelly, and then I was just sitting there, just holding my breath, and I was just expecting him to get shredded, and he goes, that's right. I told you about the problems I have. But he said, well, other than these errors, he said, this is actually not bad. It's actually very interesting. And I was like, oh my God, I can't believe Dr. Kelly said that. And I was, ecstatic on cloud nine then. Because I was braced myself, just for him to say, don't ever bring this kind of stuff to me before or again. But so that made me feel good about it. Like I said, it's just something I'm playing around with. So how old was you when you started writing? You said you went through without it as a kid. You got older.
I found out I was born with a writing talent when I was 8 years old, I would have to say, because that's when I started writing academically, and that's when I began feeling that sense of insanity from not writing, because I began writing, and then I began seeing, oh shit, this is doing something to me. This is affecting me. I'm being affected by writing. Out of all the things in this world, writing. And
so you do have this thing. I've got to go do it. I've got to go write something. I've got to go.
Yeah, okay. Like that. Okay. That's what inhabited me. It's like, I got to write something now, right now. And after that, I got mentored by the author Jules Harper for a couple of years until 2014, before the trauma happened. And then afterwards, I began writing officially for a private erotica company. And after that, I began my career, so to speak.
Okay. I was asked, and I was asked, I was in a one group, and I was asked to write. These two researchers asked me, would I consider writing, or I guess you're a ghostwriter there? Is that what it's called? Yeah. Anyway, these two researchers in Kennedy assassination asked me, would I write a book for them? And I got to thinking, all thing I've ever done is nonfiction. And I started thinking about, in college I wrote papers, and I said, I guess I could probably do that. But then I started thinking, how would I do it? Do you think you could turn around and go from writing these romance novels to writing a nonfiction book? Would it be difficult? Would it be?
It would be extremely difficult. I am not a nonfiction writer. Absolutely not.
Because then that's what I'm looking. Because I'm looking at it like, I tried to sit there and think it through, because I'm thinking about, when I was taking history classes or political science classes in college, there I am, I'm writing out, the story of how this happened. But here, I've got to figure out how to make this interesting and hold this. How am I going to tell the story and hold their attention when, in this right here? So I don't know if that is. I think some people just have to be blessed with the ability to hold somebody's story in nonfiction. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I absolutely would. I find most nonfiction books to be the most boring read I have ever done in my entire life. Any scientific document, etc. No. I love science, don't get me wrong, as much as I love technology, but I hate reading it. I absolutely hate reading it. Cannot stand it. So whenever I see someone who can hold the attention of the reader in nonfiction, biggest applause from me. Absolutely biggest applause from me. That is the biggest achievement in that field ever when it comes to writing nonfiction, holding someone's attention constantly. Biggest fucking applause to that person.
Because that was what I was worried about, because I sat back there and I thought, writing a paper and then telling a story. And then I tried to imagine putting myself in there and telling the story of that. And I was like, I don't think that, because within fiction or excuse me, nonfiction, to me, it's like a history book, like you had in school. Some people are going to just facts and numbers and stuff. So I agree with you on that. What my favorite author was Stephen Ambrose. Well, one of my favorite authors, and he wrote about. I'm not sure if you're familiar with him, but it was World War II, and he was one of those guys. And it was like whenever I picked up one of his books, when he told the stories of the Western Front World War II, I couldn't put it down. He was awesome for that.
Yeah,
he's probably the best. When you said it too, I thought it was something funny. I hate alternate history, but yeah, that's the only thing I've read about it, and I hate it. Like I would never watch an alternate history TV. I would never read an alternate history book or story.
And now you're writing it.
And that's something I do now. Yeah, that's and I've got four of them, and I hate it. I mean, I would never watch it on TV. Well, I'll take that back. I did kind of like oh god, of course I was a Cold War kid, Red Dawn. So, you gotta love that.
Yeah.
Do you like the short stories better or novels?
Both, actually. I got a lot of short stories that I bought, as well as novels. So it depends on what I'm in the mood for. Like on a light summer day, I'll take a short story with me just to read it, enjoy it with a whiskey or, a nice alcoholic type of thing. And
you're a Hemingway type. I mean, are you're the drunk writer?
I'm the drunk writer. Yes, absolutely yes.
Okay, of course I've heard of those. One of my favorite writers, and I don't know what you would call that, but have you ever heard of Hunter S. Thompson?
Oh God, Thompson is. My God, he is an absolutely astounding man. If I got to meet him, if I ever had gotten to meet him before he died, I would have drank with that man every day. Believe me, that man is an amazing man.
I just wanted. I mean, it didn't even have to be about talking about. I just wanted to hang out with the dude. I mean,
right?
Did you ever read his daily routine?
Yeah, I did.
God,
I would have joined him.
That was like it was like rye 605, Dunhills and coffee or orange juice, cocaine, cigarettes, more new
barrels, motorbiking.
Well, it was like starting at 6, and it was like you got this, and more cocaine and more cocaine, and then you go to this restaurant, and it was like he started drinking too. It was Chivas, and this restaurant was like 2 cheeseburgers, taco salad, order of onion rings, huge meal, and then 3 jiggers of Chivas over ice on the way home, more cocaine, grass to take the edge off, drop acid, and midnight Hunter's ready to write. It's like, it's, like this guy. I was like, how do you sleep doing cocaine 20 hours a day? But yeah, he was amazing. But he was somebody though that when we were talking about that. I only had one genre. That guy could write anything. I mean, he was writing for ESPN right before he died. I mean, Fear and Loathing on
Gumbo writer.
I mean, his I guess my favorite one was probably Fear and Loathing on the Campaign Trail when he's writing about Richard Nixon in 1972 because he hated Nixon.
Yeah, that reminds me. Johnny Depp was the first man to get to read the novel Fear and Loathing and a few others. Because he knew Hunter S. Thompson closely during his younger years, and I remember during an interview with Johnny, I saw that he said Hunter S. Thompson told Johnny Depp to read his novel in specific ways, including the tonation, the speed, the feelings, emotions, everything. Like he told him step by step exactly how he wanted his novel to be read. That is one of the luckiest men I know. Johnny Depp got to know Hunter Thompson closely.
I mean, it was crazy. Of course, I think all the great ones. I think all the great ones are mentally off. Just yeah. A little bit. Hunter S. Thompson was nuts. I mean, like the day he killed himself, he's there just got off the phone with his wife, and they thought it was
he one day woke up and said, I did everything I wanted. Bye. That's it.
Yeah, I think he had either just hung up the phone with his wife or he killed her when he was on the phone. But
he had an argument with his wife and said to her to go out of the bedroom, which he had never done before in his entire life.
He was on the phone with somebody, or he just got off the phone with somebody. I thought his kids was in the next room, and he was on the phone with her.
His kid was in the next room, yes, and he told his wife to get out of the bedroom. He then called her on the phone and said, "You can come back."
Okay, I'm sorry.
And during the time he said she can come back, he just took his life. Like that. It wasn't even depression. He just outright because he could.
There was something I think to that though too. I remember him saying something about he hated the month of February. There was no football on. Because that was his favorite month, and it was dreary. And I can't remember if this was some kind of note he wrote or out, but he said, "You relax. This won't hurt a bit. You got 17 more years than you wanted. Act your old damn age." Or I can't remember if that was a note he'd read out or something. But I mean, I remember reading several times about it. They killed himself, but yeah, just kind of like, that's it.
Yep, that's it. End of the line.
And then what? And Hemingway was what? He was only 61 when he killed himself, or
yeah, he went insane because of his injuries. He had endured a lot of injuries, so eventually they caught up with him, and he couldn't write anymore due to his bad memory and many other things that happened to him. So not being able to write and that being the only thing he had in life, he just grabbed a shotgun and killed himself. That's it. He wouldn't bear life without writing. He wouldn't bear life without being himself. Whereas Thompson just one day woke up and said, "I've lived life. That's it. Goodbye."
That just shows you the eccentricity. I can't say the word. Of Hunter Thompson.
He was a fucking eccentric man.
Yes, that's trying to get it out. I mean,
he wasn't even depressed. The dude just woke up and said he didn't want to live anymore. That's it. Happily too. How do you just wake up one day with a smile on your face and say, "That's it. I'm done with life now.
I'm done.
I'm happy."
I don't know. I mean, that just goes to show how his mind worked. He kind of reminds me of he reminds me of Larry David in a way.
Right?
I mean, he really reminds me of him in a way. I mean, it's just he was amazing. I love reading stories about him, who've been around him, and everything. Everything about him was just I can't. I don't know. There's words to describe. What do you think about writers like? Because they forced us to read them in the class. Edgar Allan Poe. Did you like him?
No.
Okay.
Shakespeare and Edgar Allan Poe, no. I know I should. I know they're literary giants, and I know that they're loved by almost everyone, but I hate them.
And I'll tell you, I didn't like Poe either. And I'll tell you what, I don't know what the hell he was talking about.
I know what he was talking about, but to me, his prose is just so heavy-handed. I can't stand.
I could be like the Raven. I couldn't figure out what the hell he was talking about.
It's all about his fantasies and dreams. Really, all of his poems and all his short stories are all about his fantasies and dreams. That's it. That's all they have ever been.
Remember, and we had to read so much in one of the literary classes I took, and I was reading this stuff. And it was so boring to me. And there was one story, and you'll probably know what I'm talking about. I can't remember the name of it was, but it was like he was in the room with a dead body, and the body would come to life, and this right here. And anyway, this professor ended up telling me it was because he was having erectile dysfunction. And that's what it was about. And I was like, that's it. I mean, that's what we're reading about. Is it true you said that about Shakespeare? Is it true all of his stories were comedies?
A lot of them are tragedies too, actually. A lot of them are love stories and tragedies because there's studies about Shakespeare where he did have a family.
But I've heard they were all comedies to him in his mind, the way his mind worked. These tragedies.
No, a lot of them were tragedies too, and during his last years, he did return to his family, and I believe that's where he wrote his last few tragedies and comedies, and then that's it. Nobody knows where he was buried. Nobody knows where he went after that, because he returned to his families in his last year. Then during his last few years, he wrote his last few plays and then disappeared. That's it. Nobody knows where he got buried at all.
What is the I lost my train of thought there. I was fixing that. Emily Dickinson. Her writing style wasn't it about a jilted lover when she was younger?
Yeah, it was.
Okay. That's what I thought. You said earlier, because that's what I want to go back on to, that it's going to become, you believe it's going to become more and more of a female-dominated market, just in the love
Last
story
years.
In the
in terms of like fantasy and romance, it's mostly female-dominated now. Like,
do you think it's going to go into other genres?
I hope not, personally, because I love still reading some male stories where it's written properly with the male perspective. Because some women, I understand women want to write males, those sexy, steamy, hot males, but I still want the original train of thought between the female and male. And females are great at writing out females too, don't get me wrong, as well as males, but it doesn't feel as natural when a man writes out a man, you know?
Yeah, like before I get mad, they'll get mad at me if I say this, but I was joking. I was joking with my friends in 2016, and I was one of the first person that told, even before it got started, 2015 when he announced, I said Trump's going to win this thing. And it's like, oh, you're crazy, Trump. It's going to win. And then after last election, everyone's over with. Even going up to us, he's going to beat her. And this is my friend said it today. Goes, how did you know that? And I said, he's running against a woman. A woman can't be president of the United States.
Good God above.
And of course, everybody just busted out laughing. I was like, "What are you doing? What you this boy can't be president." And my friend, yeah. I had a lot of fun. And, but yeah, I mean, I know what you're going with that too, because I can put that in the other aspects of life. There's just certain things that a man, a male's perspective on, like sports. I hate to get into that, but I definitely see where you're going with that. You said you had another book that was planned to be released soon, or
Yes, I have. I have Odysseus Lost, another title in 1940, set during post-war, and then I have a poetry book titled The Night that is yet to come out, and then I have a fantasy series called the Fallen's Fantasy Series.
oh, I
All
do
of it.
remember now. Oh, I'm sorry, finish your statement. I do remember now a question that I had for you, because when you first you was telling me about this, and I was like, these years, you totally threw me off with these years. I'm like, what, why did you pick these certain time periods, these certain 1940 to 1980 or 1960? I mean,
I'm a jazz writer. I love elegance and
explain what a jazz writer is.
Like I love sophistication. I love elegance. I love.
That's a jazz. That's what that's describing a jazz writer: elegance and sophistication.
Yeah, like those years where there was still some sort of respect between people, where there was some still of elegance to the language, where you spoke softly, you spoke gently.
Build that wall, build that wall.
Yeah, basically.
You do what you said?
Yes.
Okay, I didn't know if I got the joke out of you. Yeah, okay, I see that. More of a kindly, gentler sound.
Yeah, and like in the 1920s, 1930s, 1920s, those are the years. People partied, people went out, had fun, had sex, drank, danced, played music, had contraband alcohol, traveled the world. They did amazing things, amazing feats. And that was the age, the golden age of jazz. And that continued on until like 1960, even after the war. And then after 1960, just all went downfall after the modernizing. The phone, the cars, the suits, all of that.
Yeah, that's an interesting take, that how things have changed since the modernization. Because I was actually doing something the other night of something I was fixing, a part of this channel. It's just going to be me talking. In the South, we're huge college football fans, and I'm going to start doing this thing called Saturday Just Down South, where I go back and talk about a certain football team and their season. And one I was thinking the other day I'm going to do was the Auburn Tigers '83, and I got to thinking about how I was going to start off. Think back when VCRs and microwaves and Walkmans and those things were not archaic relics now. Because you look back and you're like, oh, that's cute. It's just that I guess what I'm getting at, modernization has changed everybody in their way of thought, and that's in the way things
even
are done.
even the Wild West had a very elegant language. Even then, like
most of the educators learn Latin too.
Yeah, and they could say, like, women would greet you with "hello, darling" or "hello, lovely." Men would also say "hello, gentlemen," or they would greet respectfully. They would always have some form of respectful vocabulary that was expanded upon a lot. And then came the modernization.
Yeah, and maybe it's because we're behind, but in the South, it's still that way. You used to say yes, ma'am, and no, ma'am, and yes, sir, no, sir.
Yeah.
For people, gentlemen, how are you this evening? When you greet people, always shake hands. We're polite people, but we can be riled by anger really easy too. And I don't know why that's, but that's something that the South has held on to that a lot of other people or a lot of other regions I've noticed have lost. Sorry, I didn't mean to get you off your
No, it's
thing.
okay.
It just got me thinking about that.
Um, I believe it's time we round off soon, actually, because
Well, I was fixing to ask you if you had anything else you wanted to say. I didn't realize that we'd already been. I told you I looked forward to this interview. Most of the times I'm looking at the clock and trying to figure out how long it can go, and then I didn't realize we'd been doing this for almost 2 hours.
almost 12 hours.
I've really enjoyed this.
I mean, I really enjoyed it. This is my second interview in the public as of late. I hope for more over time. I'm just a normal, ordinary jazz writer. I write jazz, romance, and erotica, and general romance. I have my published book, Atlas Loved, on Amazon, which you can find on Amazon.com, Amazon.co.uk, or any Amazon site for that matter, or in Kindle, Google Books, I believe. I set it up 2 days ago, and yeah.
Did you already tell the names of your books, or the names? Did you already tell the names so people will know?
Atlas Loved by W.M.
Atlas
H.
Loved.
Not to be confused with Atlas Shrugged by another author. Atlas Loved.
Well, Wolf, I don't know how you got that name, but I like it. It's been a pleasure having you on. I've really enjoyed this. And
it's been a pleasure having you too.
Good luck with your books, and I hope they do well for you, man.
Yeah, and I believe in 5 or 10 years, let's redo this again and see the success.
We should. And for all your friends out there, come subscribe to the channel because we'll be there. And, thanks, man. It's been good talking to you.
Subscribe to the C Show, hosted
the
by
C Show, hosted by Chris. I will actually what I'll do is after I get it edited, I will send you a link of it, and you can post it on your Instagram. Give me a day or so because my phones have messed up, but I'll make sure I get it to you and you can post it on there, man.
Take your time. It's in no rush. I only updated my followers that there's a interview coming, but that's it. Didn't say when.
We got one coming, very soon.
Yep, basically.
And I'll cut that.
My phone at 4% battery.
I did not realize that it went that long when I was. You've been trying to survive.